Hey, Action Shelf listeners, before we jump into the show itself, we want to tell you about how you can get even more action in your life.
Mm.
That appeals to you.
More action. More action. You
More
say,
action,
John.
you say. Yes. If you go over to our Podbean patron page, that's patron.podbean.com/punchup. You can listen to Lisman and I watch, what's this? Good action movies.
Good action movies, you say?
That's right. A change of pace. We thought behind the paywall, let's give people something of quality. So,
And give us something of quality.
I know, it's such a pleasure to do that. So twice a month, you and I will be doing commentary tracks that you can download for good action movies, all kinds of awesome stuff from a lot of our heroes like John Woo. And we've done stuff from the John Wick franchise and Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all the guys we never get to talk about on here.
Yeah, so stuff we legitimately love and love to share with you all.
Yeah. So you can listen to that as well as other cool exclusive content from the Punch Up Entertainment Network shows. Once again, the address for that is patron.podbean.com/punchup. And now, into the action.
The Action Show. Action Show. The Action Show. The Action Show.
Welcome to the Action Shelf. The podcast celebrates the glory of B action movies. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Michael Lisman.
Oh, Lisman. It's the beautiful month of November. And by that,
the leaves are falling from the trees.
It's finally rainy.
We just got through the scary month. We're feeling very thankful for
we're spending a whole month, as we talked about last week, being thankful for a certain man. And that man is Chuck Norris. This is Norris November. And joining us for this episode of Norris November, he was on last year around the same time to talk about a Chuck Norris classic, Lone Wolf McQuade. Now he's back with us, our friend Alex Shafer.
Hello. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. I did think after Abraxas, I might have gotten a call from you just being like, you know what, I got to take a break from these.
I need a break.
Yeah. Or the opposite is, it doesn't get worse than Abraxas. So
I don't think it's hard to get worse than that movie. That movie was pretty atrocious.
That movie was incredibly atrocious.
Yeah.
I think
pretty hard to watch.
I mean, I think like there's because we're talking this week. We're talking about 1986's Firewalker.
Yes.
And the thing I'll say about right up front is Lisman, you and I we love this. As soon as that Canon logo comes on, there is a certain okay, there's a base level of quality. It can only get so bad when it's Canon. I feel
right. It'll be campy. It'll be nonsensical, but it will at least be an amount of fun.
Right? There's a polish to it as well.
Yeah.
So, as a listener of this show, I've heard about Canon films, but I don't believe I've ever seen one before watching this movie.
Yeah.
And
was Lone Wolf McQuade not a Canon film?
Lone Wolf McQuade
was that a little after Canon?
No, I think that was like right before Canon. I think that was the transitionary period between, because we did Force of One last week, and I think Lone Wolf McQuade is like in there right before he becomes a Canon guy. Norris.
Okay, gotcha. It felt like a Canon.
It definitely has that feeling of Canon, and I don't think it actually is though. But I think we may have said it's a Canon movie in the past because it seems like one. But yeah, Canon films, I mean, the 1983 was Lone Wolf McQuade, and no. Although interestingly, produced by a different guy named Yoram, but not Globus.
Canon is a studio company that existed in the 80s that made a lot of these types of films. So like a lot of Chuck Norris movies, a lot of Death Wish movies. Not the first one, but
Bronson, Norris, Van Damme, Dudikoff, these were their guys. Lots of ninja movies. They made a lot of cheap schlock. And the thing that they were very good at, and this totally applies to this movie, they were great at packaging movies and selling them to places, right? The idea of, here they clearly were like, we've got two known stars. We're going to put them in a proven genre, especially at this time. We're 5 years after Raiders of the Lost Ark at this point.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of movies coming out like this around the time, because apparently, actually, the big thing they used to sell this was the Robert Zemeckis movie "Romancing the Stone." That was what they kept comparing it to, because that one is a little bit more comedic than Indiana Jones. So and so I'm sure that was the thing. But the way Cannon would make movies, we've talked about this before, but they would make a poster. They would get a title and an actor, and then they would sell the movie having nothing else. But they would sell it to theaters all over the world. Just going, so in this case, they'd be like Chuck Norris, Firewalker, and then maybe like a painting of him in an Indiana Jones type outfit.
You know, there's something efficient about that, because, like, why spend all that time writing a movie and preparing to produce a movie if it's not going to get sold? So, like, it's like, well, this idea got sold, so I guess now we'll come up with what this is supposed to be.
We've talked, and actually, this is the beginning of trouble for them, is this movie, because
really?
Yeah, this is one of their first kind of like, this one didn't make money. Well, this one made money, but it didn't make that much money. And they had to look into their finances at this point. But yeah, they would package stars and titles. Let me say, this is not the beginning of the end by any means, but this was definitely a slip for them.
Yeah.
But the thing they were always very smart at was spend a little bit of money, make a lot of money. What was ultimately their undoing, and we've already talked about it a little bit, is when they tried to get too big, right? And they started making Masters of the Universe and Superman 4 and trying to actually compete at the blockbusters. Because I feel like this is about as big a blockbuster as you'll get from Cannon, which does lead me to, I do have the budget for this movie, so we will play our favorite game. I'd like both of you to take your best guess as to how much this movie cost circa 1986.
1986, yeah. $10 million?
Lisman's saying 10. Alex, do you have anything? I love the steepled fingers that he's really thinking.
With $34 million.
$34 million. That would have been a lot for the time. Lisman, you're pretty close. $8 million.
8, okay.
$8 million.
I'm slowly getting better at this
34
game.
Would probably be accurate for like now. That's like a medium budget movie at the time. I did look because I was just curious. 5 years earlier, Raiders was made for 18.
Oh wow! Okay.
Oh, wow.
Which would have been a big budget at the time. Once again, the idea of like $100 million movie was nonsense, back then.
For 1986, this movie doesn't look terrible. It
doesn't look terrible. I would say there are places more in comparison to things like Indiana Jones where you start to see it slip.
Yes,
and that's things like temple sets and things like that, where you're going, they're just, it's not bad, but it's a little bit like the theme park version of the Indiana Jones set.
Yes.
They filmed in the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland, not in an
right. Guerrilla filmmaking in Universal Studios.
Yeah, it does have that where you're going like, those rocks aren't super convincing, like stuff like that. But for the most part, like when they're outside and stuff, it's all competently made, which leads me to, I'm trying to think, is this the first movie we've watched directed by the great J. Lee Thompson? I don't know if it is or not. No, we did Murphy's Law, which he made right before. In fact, he made that the same year, Murphy's Law with Charles Bronson. But J. Lee Thompson was a great filmmaker. He made classics like Guns of Navarone and Cape Fear, Taurus Bulba, of the 50s and 60s. This is older him. He kind of became a canon guy, and I definitely associate with being a Charles Bronson specific guy. They made probably 5 or 6 movies together.
Including Death Wish 4, which was right after this movie.
Yeah.
Or at least a little bit after this movie.
Death Wish 4, The Crackdown. Yeah, I mean, his last 3 movies all have Death Wish 4, Messenger of Death, and Kinjite, Forbidden Subjects. Both, by the way, Messenger of Death and Kinjite, Forbidden Subjects are totally future episodes of this show. And that's all canon.
I mean, yeah, of course.
The Evil That Men Do, 10 to Midnight, these are all canon movies with... he is kind of an interesting... The reason I think he got this is he had already done King Solomon's Mines. And that's the thing I kept thinking about watching this movie, because I don't know if you guys know King Solomon Mines, but that was canon's Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was actually like there, and they made a sequel called Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold. Richard Chamberlain was Alan Quatermain, who was the canon Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Okay.
And those movies were big hits.
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting that they kind of tried to double dip here, and this one didn't work as well. And I think I'll say this, and Alex, I know you and I were a little bit more negative in the pre-show before. Yeah, Listen was like, "Oh, it's pretty good," and Alex and I are like, I don't know. I think a big problem here is, and we love him, and the month is devoted to him. I think this is a real awkward Chuck Norris.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't go into any Chuck Norris movie expecting him to blow me away with his acting chops or comedic ability.
And the problem is this movie's relying a lot more on that than his martial arts. They let him do his martial arts, but they want him to be in the Indiana Jones mold. And he's not a Harrison Ford. He's not a Michael Douglas. No. He's not even a Richard Chamberlain, who was Alan Quatermain for canon, who was more suave and dashing,
Yeah, he is not that. No.
His banter to roundhouse kicks ratio was way off.
And I think therein stems why they're like, "Ooh, we'll do Indiana Jones with Chuck, but we'll make it a buddy movie so that we'll put a real actor next to him."
Yes.
And that the one of the saving graces of the movie, I think, is Lou Gossett Jr., who
he's great in this movie. Well, honestly, I really liked him
because he's an actual really good actor.
Yeah,
he's a real deal actor, and it shows because Chuck, who's always a block of wood, really looks like a block of wood next to a guy who's actually knows what he's doing.
Yes.
Lou Gossett Jr. is a legendary actor. And at this time, I'm sure was probably a get for them.
Definitely.
Still with us, by the way, Lou Gossett Jr. He was great in the HBO Watchmen show recently.
He was in that. Oh my god.
He's the old man, the grandfather.
The grandfather.
And he was great.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I mean, this guy goes back to roots. An Officer and a Gentleman, Enemy Mine. I mean, he is, like I said, he was the first. Oh my god, this is gonna make you sad now that he's in this. But I mean, I'm sure he took a good payday on this. But he is the first African American actor to win Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that, I mean, he's got an Academy Award at this point when he's doing this movie. So. He's adding a level of legitimacy to Does he actually have? That's actually a good question. Does he actually have the Academy Award at this point? When was Officer and a Gentleman? Yeah, he won in '82. Okay, yeah. So yeah, he does. And here he is, partnered with Chuck Norris. And I was watching this movie thinking, okay, so they're taking Indiana Jones and they're pairing it with sort of a Lethal Weapon tone. Except Lethal Weapon isn't out yet. It doesn't come out till the next year. So then I kind of backed up to, I think what they're playing on is Indiana Jones meets Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, that feels right.
The banter. Because I will say, trying to write down, this movie doesn't have a lot of one-liners. It has a lot of banter. So much banter.
Yes, that is true.
And that is where Chuck is woefully miscast.
I guess... Yes, he is woefully miscast.
I mean, I like
He's
Chuck.
not...
Once again, I like the guy, so it's
Yeah,
watchable.
yeah.
But it is like it's more like, oh, don't ask him to do this. More so than I'm blaming him.
I mean,
there's something.
Go
ahead, Alex.
Oh no, go for it.
I was just gonna say there is something nice about the script having like characters with character traits. I know that's like maybe the saddest, lowest bar that anyone has ever said about a movie, but compared to the movies we watch on a regular basis, they're actually giving the actors something to go for, you know. Even if Chuck, fails to to live up to that, but because they're giving him something.
Because I do think Chuck is doing his best. I think this is the best he can do.
Yes.
What were you gonna say, Alex?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, compared to Lone Wolf McQuade, he does actually show some emotion in this. So I wanted to give him just some credit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to bag on him too much. It's just it's an awkward fit in the part more so.
Yes.
I do kind of like seeing him be more lighthearted, like have fun. It's just it's so like him trying to carry this is tough, and also he and Melody Anderson have no chemistry whatsoever.
Very true.
None.
Very true. Yeah.
She's coming. Well, it's been a few years now, but I'm a big fan of the movie Flash Gordon, and she was the lead in that. That's probably what she's most famous for. But I will say, she's fine. She's and this part and her both are sort of these stock '80s female lead. You know,
pretty much. I mean, they made her a little bit weirder than most 80s female leads, but yeah. I mean, it's pretty much in that vein for sure.
Definitely, yeah. So so you have all that, but I do think this is. I mean, Listman, where you and I come at these movies, we do this every week. This is definitely a movie. Like, there's a real director. There's some money. So I think, especially coming off of, we just did A Force of One last week with Chuck Norris to kick off this month. This is a huge step up from that.
Even just like the basic concept of pacing, the story in this movie moves at a general pace that can be tracked. If there's like a chart of the ebb and flow and the rising action of this movie, it's shaped like you want it to be for a story for a movie. As opposed to like various scenes that just kind of meander and putter about, and then apparently the end happens. You're like, I guess this movie's over now. All right, well, that's weird.
I do kind of agree though with I read some of the reviews from the time, and this movie was slammed by critics, absolutely decimated by the critics of the time. But I just want to read the first couple sentences of Roger Ebert's review, because I do agree with him. I don't think it's as detrimental as he's making it out to be, but I do agree with this general sentiment. And here he says, "Okay, where to start with this movie? Where to end? Even more to the point, in which order to show the reels? Firewalker is a free-form anthology of familiar images from the works of Steven Spielberg, subjected to a new process we could call discolorization. All of the style and magic are gone, leaving only the booby-trapped temples, the steaming jungle, and such lines as, if I remember correctly, 'Witch, woman, harlot, I've been called them all.'"
Yep.
I mean, I think he's right about that. I think that actually kind of works to your point, Listman, is it is more of a movie and more of a story only because it's not attempting to do anything new, anything like clever, or it is just it is, and I was thinking, it doesn't have so much of a plot as a series of events that are all based around, we understand what a treasure hunt movie looks like, basically.
Exactly, yes. They took the beats that already existed in pre-existing content and just...
Yeah, I agree, though, because I was thinking...
Copied and pasted.
Because I go, this is reasonably entertaining and watchable, but it is Indiana Jones zapped of all character and charm. Like anything that takes it to that next level.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe my positivity towards the movie is in reaction to the last two movies we've watched for this podcast, where it's just like, boy, those were slogs. Those were
Devil's Revenge,
Force of One and
Devil's
Devil's
Revenge.
Revenge. Yeah.
And we had
we're
Shark.
just
We had the Shark movie before that. I mean,
I don't even remember Shark Lake, if I'm going to be honest. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the episode because I will say I struggle to remember the details.
I think I was telling you that I was going back and listening to some of our very first episodes and going, I don't remember some of these movies at all. So, Alex, what's your so you're coming in a little bit fresher than us. What are your general feelings about Firewalker?
Yeah.
Like construction wise, like it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of just action set piece to action set piece to action set piece to
the
awkward romantic scene to action set piece.
It's like, I mean, I said it's borrowing this very simple, we've got to find the treasure before the bad guys. In terms of like plot, that's about as simple as you get.
Yes. It doesn't have ambition for much more than that, honestly.
No, it kind of just like cribs off better art and then uses very stereotypical caricatures of people, and
you're getting into the stuff that definitely rubbed me the wrong way, which is any attempt, which I think the Indiana Jones movies do very well, because George Lucas is interested and researches cultures and things like that and wants to actually talk about real artifacts. This is totally just like three Americans go looking for some foreign shit.
Yes.
Very much so, yeah.
And it's several different ancient societies all pooled together. Which is
that's what
very funny.
That really got me.
They're like, I don't know. It's Mayan, it's Inca, it's whatever. Who cares?
It's a Native American Apache in some places, and you're like, wait a
minute. Yeah, it's just kind of a hodgepodge. Because again, like the makers at Canon, they don't care about those details. That doesn't matter. What matters is that, these are familiar terms that you've heard in other movies like that. So maybe you won't notice that it's stupid the more you look at it, you know?
Yeah. And so I watched this one with the subtitles on because,
as you should,
sound quality is not great always.
Yeah.
And at least on Amazon, it showed if they were speaking Arabic or if they were speaking in Spanish. But when the Asian charter was speaking, it just said speaking foreign language.
Yeah. Well, let's not also forget like this weird runner of their arch nemesis who's like a Chinese general or something.
It's not clear, but he has an army of like Arabic people for some reason.
Yeah.
And a golf cart that is the most stereotypically Chinese golf cart I've ever seen.
Did you recognize this actor, Listman, Richard Lee Sung?
Yes.
I think I'm assuming you recognize him from the same place I did.
Probably. Wasn't he? He was in an episode of MASH, right?
He's in 11 episodes of MASH.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's immediately. Now, it's unfortunate. I believe he plays 11 different characters because he was just sort of used as general, Asian guy who would come on the show.
I will say this about MASH, though. Also, that happened a lot for everybody, including like all the side characters. Like they would bring back. In fact, the guy who came on to play Colonel Potter.
Oh yeah,
was a different general. Yeah. Was a different character earlier in the show, and they just brought him back because they liked him.
It's weird. Harry Morgan. Is in.
Yeah, Harry Morgan. That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he comes back as Colonel Potter later. It is weird. And that's. I mean that was TV back then. That was a thing. You would because they didn't really think anyone was paying attention.
Nobody cared. Yeah.
This weird thing in this movie, though, where I like that in concept, because that's how the movie opens.
In concept,
that'll take us right to the opening of the movie. I like in concept because I do like movies that imply characters that have lives, right? So there's this idea that this stems from some other thing that they ran afoul of this guy. And the movie even starts in this James Bondian kind of style where we are seeing the end of a mission that started before the movie. And actually, I thought this is one of the best parts of the movie is this desert chase. This is pretty good, actually.
Yeah, and they're like weird little dune buggies or whatever.
Well, because the one thing Cannon did shell out money for action. They knew that was what their audience was looking for. So they would go, do a big car chase, do big explosions, and that's one of the reasons we like Cannon. I will say, though, about the pacing, listen, the only note about this movie, hour 45 could have got it down to 90 minutes and been better. I think.
It could have been trimmed down. Oh, yeah, for sure.
It doesn't
definitely
drag as much as some. Yeah. We've seen 80-minute movies that feel slower than this, but I will say there were a couple points where I'm like, this could just be tightened up a little bit, and I would have
if they just cut out all the romantic scenes,
Dude, they should have seen that shit didn't work at all. That doesn't work.
Nope.
She had more chemistry with Lou Gossett Jr.
Yes,
they should have.
That's what Maggie and I kept saying. It's like those two are the ones who are in love. Honestly,
I don't even think I need to get into why they didn't go down that route. This is unfortunately the 80s is still that era. Like literally, there are movies in the 90s where they wouldn't let Denzel kiss the white female lead, which is crazy to think about. But there are
that is crazy
where they would go, late. Some parts of the country aren't going to like that, so let's just not.
Some parts of the country are terrible, so let's kowtow to them specifically.
Where it's like, they're fine with Denzel kicking ass, but if he kisses Julia Roberts, they're gonna flip shit. Like, wait a minute now. So anyway, we start with this desert dune buggy chase, which is pretty good, and it establishes our lead characters, which are Chuck Norris is Max Donegan, and Lou Gossett Jr. is Leo Porter. Now, Max Donegan I remember because they keep saying Max Donegan in the movie.
That's true. Yeah.
Leo comes a lot. But these two, we immediately are established with these two never stop bickering.
They're like an old married couple.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I don't mind as somebody who loves a buddy cop thing. It's a little, like I said, and Chuck is okay with some of this stuff, but it doesn't have the same pace as a Mel Gibson or a Danny Glover or a Robert Redford and a Paul Newman, where
of course,
it does feel a little bit like. And I looked through all the trivia and I was trying to go, was this developed for somebody else? Because they just kept saying in the trivia, this was a change of pace for Chuck and that he didn't play a stoic hero. He's, a wisecracker. But I couldn't.
Well, I don't know about that.
On paper, he's supposed to be cracking. Let's say that. Because Max Donegan was not your typical Chuck Norris character he played in the past. His character is much lighter with a sense of humor, and you're like, Now here's an interesting connection to another show on our one of our patron shows. Chuck Norris's trainer on this movie was the Incredible Hulk himself, Lou Ferrigno.
Oh. Gotcha.
Who I actually thought, why wasn't he in the movie?
Great question.
Because he was doing the Hercules movies with Cannon at this point. So.
Okay, gotcha. So there's that Cannon connection.
Future episode that is on the calendar. Yeah. We are going to do the Lou Ferrigno Hercules.
He plays Hercules.
He sure does. He sure does. He made a couple of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The reaction of "oh boy" is probably right. Yeah, in my memory, they are not good, but I haven't seen them in a long time. And so this ends with them crashing into the water out here in the desert, and the joke being, "Only you could crash into the only water out here in the desert." And let me ask this: is Chuck ever without that cigar in this movie?
Very rarely, yeah. Very rarely does he not have
that.
It.
Seems to be his acting choice here. It's just like,
it's like, well, I can't act without a cigar, guys.
Yeah. Put a cigar.
It's my main thing.
That's the character. Yeah. So they crash, and Ebert mentions this in his review, and I thought the same thing. So they are captured by this Chinese general or whatever, warlord or something. He's in like a general's uniform, but yeah, I think he's meant to be. Like you're saying, listen, you're right. It doesn't matter to this movie. Nobody could care. And they're tied to stakes in the sand. But as Ebert pointed out, as Ebert pointed out, it's like, couldn't they just lift their arms and be out of it? Like, it wouldn't. I don't. But instead, it's much more elaborate because I thought the same. I was watching it, going like, wait a minute, that wouldn't. Those wouldn't be grounded at all.
Nope. It's so stupid.
It's one of the dumber.
Nobody thought. Well, again, it's not that nobody thought. It's just nobody cares enough to be.
It's a canon movie. It's just about, are we making the day, man? We shot the pages they gave us.
Yeah, so, this is our location.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I saw it and I thought, they didn't really tie them up very tight. And never once did it occur to me, they're just in sand. My wife and I both watched this together, and neither of us got on to like, wait, no, there's nothing holding them down.
No. But also, they don't. But you guys are also right. They didn't look like they tied them very tight either. All of this is easily escapable.
It's all bad.
But of course, that has nothing to do. Actually, I would have given the movie big points if the guy had driven off and they just stood up and were like, I don't know what he was. Yeah, he's an idiot, whatever. Like,
he had to use the Perrier to get out because I'm sure they were a corporate sponsor of the movie. Oh my God,
Canon never turned down money in their life.
I mean, that label was so front and center. They had to have gotten a kickback.
You get the sense that they were doing like takes going, hang on. Can we move it? Can we turn it a little bit more to camera? There we go. We want to clearly see each letter.
PA, is rotating the bottle. So no matter what angle the shot is from, you see the label.
Because, what happens is this guy, who, by the way, is only credited as Chinese man. He's never given a name in the movie. Seems like he should. Shouldn't it be like, oh no, it's General Tong or something like that? Or literally anything would have been better than he's just mysterious Chinese man. But he puts a bottle of Perrier in Chuck Norris's hand, meant to be the ultimate torture, that you have water but you cannot drink. But instead, Chuck crushes it in his hand, then uses the broken glass to cut them free of the ropes. As we're saying, not more effort than was needed. And as Lou Gossett Jr. points out when they're walking out of the desert, you've now destroyed the only water we had.
My favorite bit from the sequence is the long shot of them, like of Chuck Norris cutting himself and then Lou Gossett Jr. out. Mm-hmm. You can see that Lou Gossett Jr.'s leg moves before he's supposed to be cut out, and so Chuck goes to cut it, sees that he's already moved it. And he's like, all right, well, and then they just kind of walk off, which is very funny.
And our buddies Golden and Globe as the heads of Canon were like, no more money for another take. No, we got it. That's good enough.
Yeah, that's
in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's good stuff.
Yeah, so they go out of there. And then there's no explanation as to how they get out of the desert. Just cuts to them back in their favorite bar.
They're fine.
Well, they talk about how he wishes... or he's like dreaming of a beer from there or something like that.
Yeah, and then it just cuts to they're in there.
Yep.
I don't know.
We don't have time, John. The plot has to start at some point.
And I just love just how much they're jamming into this scene, because it's Lou Gossett Jr. going, man, I've had enough of this adventure. We keep almost getting killed out there. I think it's time we pack it in. And of course, at that exact moment, Melody Anderson's character, whose name is... Does anyone remember? Patricia. Boy, that doesn't even sound familiar.
Nope.
She comes in with the offer, and I'm just going, my God, they had to so quickly set up one last job and then immediately get that job.
Yep. There's no time, John.
No, this movie is just like because I mean, I will say Cannon knew their audience, which is they're going like, these people don't have patience. They don't want to sit around. They want to get right to the action.
I mean, this is the same company that cut out all of the story from Invasion USA.
Lest we forget.
Every single bit of story. So that movie is literally just a series of action sequences that I guess are loosely tied together, but barely.
And one of their biggest hits. Talk about them knowing their audience. Yeah. That movie was huge for them. And where they were just like, great, no character, no plot, only use the action scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And people went, yeah, this is one of their best. I mean, to be fair, we do love that movie on this show. It was pretty great. That movie is entertaining as hell. So she shows up, and now she has a map to somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere.
Do they ever say where? I mean, I know they filmed it in Mexico, but do they ever say where they are?
So the bar is in Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she says it's somewhere down south near the border.
Okay. And then then eventually they'll end up in San Miguel. Where, but that's not this map. That's when they find that later once they're in the cave and they find that painting. Right? I think that's what leads them to then find on the map.
Boy, I'm not remembering any of this.
I mean, because it's a total fetch quest movie, right? Where it is like,
yes,
our map leads up to a place that will give us another map that will lead us to a guy who will tell us where a thing is, and then once we'll find the treasure. You know,
I've played every Uncharted game. I know how it goes. You know, it's often
There's
very
nothing wrong with that structure. There's nothing wrong with that structure. My thing here is once again kind of like the lack of the charm and creativity. There's just a lack of any of this treasure having any significance to anything.
That's true, because they're so vague about its origin that because they don't care. I don't know. It's gold. It's just it's a bunch of gold from somewhere.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything to anyone. Yeah. It's not, Indiana Jones is always looking for some sort of relic that has a mythical story behind it. And the movie usually starts
like a pre-existing relic.
Yeah, well, everything in Indiana Jones is based around a real concept, at least in some sort of folk tale, at least, right?
Mm-hmm. And the Uncharted games are very similar to that.
Yeah,
as well.
and Real Treasure, or even something like National Treasure, is based in U.S. history and uses that sort of as a map and stuff like that. Usually there's that. Here, it's like I said, it's like we're saying, it's Aztec, Mayan, Native American, kind of.
I think the
conquistadors.
Conquistadors,
and that's just a one-off.
I think IMDb listed also Egyptian gold, but
that could be, man. I don't know.
And then Amazon Prime, the summary of the movie said that it was a gold mine that they were finding.
No,
which was completely inaccurate.
It's not a mine.
No.
I don't know what it is exactly. Because I think even having watched the movie, I'm going, I don't exactly know whose gold it is, or why it's here, or why there are secrets that lead to it. Because they're gonna go with Melody Anderson to check out this map.
Yes.
Well, first, but she says the only problem is the treasure is also sought or protected by a cyclops, which will just end up being a guy with an eye patch.
A red cyclops.
Maybe. Oof.
Boy. Being a Native American guy.
Yeesh. With the worst eye patch I've ever seen in a movie.
And did you guys note it kept switching eyes?
I did, yeah.
But not only racist, also ableist. It was quite the twofer there.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
Boy, oh boy. Poor.
Oh yeah.
This is Sonny Landham, is this actor who plays the villain.
Yeah, he was in Predator, right? He was in the first Predator.
He sure
movie.
was in the first Predator. He plays Billy. He's also in The Warriors and 48 Hours. I mean, he's a good actor, and boy, he's doing the best he can here. But yeah, he plays El Coyote, who's our villain. And did he make much of an impression on anybody?
Nope.
No.
He says very little. He has no character traits other than being evil.
And his motivation is he wants... This is the closest thing the movie gets to having like a folktale or mythos, which is the spirit of the Firewalker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fully... But here's the thing. He wants the spirit of the Firewalker that will give him powers, I think.
Yeah.
What are those powers? And if he gets them, what will he do then?
The only thing we hear about the Firewalker is that his soul could go to the sun. Mm-hmm. And that's why he was called the Firewalker.
And if that guy was to get
that's it.
Yeah. If that guy was to get that power, he would... What?
Go to the sun.
Send his soul to the sun?
And that would be bad because...
Step 3... Step 4... profit?
Yeah, exactly.
Because then they wouldn't get the gold, I guess.
But that's sort of thing too, where I go like, do I want them to get the gold? I don't know who these guys are really. I mean, that's the other thing. Are these are our main characters? Are these good guys?
I mean, they are stealing indigenous artifacts, so
I mean,
they were going to donate 20% to the.
Oh, good. Well, then that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not
super good and cool.
It doesn't. They just don't have the same drive like the other adventure characters we're talking about, Indiana Jones or Nathan Drake, right? Because Nathan Drake is also doing that, but there is he's got a family connection to some of it, and there's a history to it, and some of that is also just the puzzle of finding it.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. This belongs in a museum. It's. I want a boat off the shore of Mexico.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's the other thing. None of these characters have any respect for what they're doing. There's no hey, this is someone's history. But also, as we're talking about, the movie doesn't even care that it's someone's history. So why should they, I guess?
Nope.
Because El Coyote, I don't think has any more claim to it than they do, because I don't really know what his heritage is exactly, nor do we really understand the origins of the gold. So we have a bunch of people just running around looking for gold. Well, he doesn't even care about the gold. He just wants to be the Firewalker for unknown reasons.
So then why is he trying to kill them? What?
Well, he needs to sacrifice one of them so that he can...
That's the only thing that becomes okay, he needs to be stopped at the end.
Why does it have to be one of them? Oh, does it have to be Patricia?
For some reason, he's got a real murder boner for Patricia.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually explains that there's any reason for why it is her specifically.
I figured it was because she had premonition. She had...
Oh my God, that's right. She has powers. She mentions that she has dreams of things that will happen.
Yes.
I missed that.
She wanted to find the treasure so that she could prove that she's not crazy to herself.
What great motivation, yeah.
I mean, weird, but it's a weird thing.
The whole thing is so ill-defined. And the movie also clearly is also going, don't think about it. Just enjoy the action.
Please don't.
They really don't want anyone to dig into. Yeah, please. Chuck's gonna kick some guys now. Is that good? Because even here in this scene in the bar where she's telling them all this stuff about the map, it's pretty quickly interrupted by assassins with crossbows.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Right away. And who are these guys exactly?
I think they work for
El Coyote. I don't remember seeing them again.
We don't see them again. Or no, we see them in the first cave, right? This guy,
yeah. Yeah, that's
so.
because let's see here.
This guy does get killed in that first cave, doesn't he?
Oh, is this the guy they shoot in the first cave with this?
No, this is the guy that Chuck throws a knife into. I think.
Yes, we do that because the whole bit in this movie is Chuck is a bad shot.
He can't shoot his gun to save his life,
which I guess is fun.
Like to the point where he gives his partner his gun to kill a Aztec warrior?
Yeah, that scene. Okay, so let's get to... So they get to this cave, right? They end up hiking to this cave.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to it right now. Because they basically go from the bar to this cave. Lots more bickering and bantering and going, I can't believe... There's so much... I can't believe we're climbing a mountain. Oh, there better be treasure in there. Otherwise, I'm going to be so mad. There's just nonstop with this stuff. And Lou Gossett Jr. is doing anything to try to make this movie entertaining, right? He is acting his heart out.
He sure is.
So they find this cave, and they're kind of trying to do Indiana Jones-esque scares with the skeletons and skulls in here, right?
Didn't work.
No, because once again, this is where this feels very much like a set. It doesn't really feel like we're entering a cave. It is like...
It feels very much like Legend of the Hidden Temple.
That's dead
on. That's exactly what it is. It is the game show version of a temple set.
Exactly.
That does have that vibe where it's just like, once again, it looks a little plastery. It looks like you're going like, oh, everything is fine, but you're just like, that's the whole movie kind of felt like this to me, where I'm going like, there's nothing inherently wrong here, but there's really nothing to make this of much quality either. It just kind of hums along pleasantly enough. And then you're like, huh.
Yes.
Well, that was kind of nothing. But it's serviceable in a way. So, so they go through here. They find the Conquistador helmet. The Conquistador thing almost doesn't matter.
No, it's not mentioned after this point, as far as I know.
Nope.
No, they find this helmet and they go, oh, man, there were Conquistadors here. And you've got... Here's the other thing, too, about it. Lou Gossett Jr. seems to know a little bit about archaeology. Because he's the one who's like...
But they don't lean into it at all.
That's 16th century Conquistador. Because Chuck Norris knows nothing. He is just this dumb guy.
Yes, I think he's supposed to be a himbo.
I think kind of, yeah. And they're doing a thing that Lisman and I last month we did a commentary track for The Mummy, and I think they're trying to do something that movie successfully does, which is have an action hero, and I think they're borrowing a little bit from Indiana Jones too, right? A fallible action hero. Hence, he has a gun, but he's not very good with it. That kind of stuff. But it's just it doesn't quite. Once again, I think it's just a weird use of Chuck.
Yeah, and I feel like they don't give Lou Gossett Jr. enough to do in the movie. Like, his knowledge should be more important for figuring out where to go and what to do. Make him
really the smart guy of the two who knows stuff.
The brains of the two, for sure.
Well, because, I mean, in some ways, maybe ditch the female character at all or totally change her or something, because she takes away a lot of that as the person who just has... And it's also a convenient story thing, right? That she has visions, so she can just go, I dreamed that this would happen. And then you're like,
exactly.
Great. I don't know.
Okay.
Because she'll use that later when they're trying to kill Chuck. She ends up saving him because she dreams that he's going to be murdered, right?
I was really hoping she would turn out to be evil. I don't know why.
That seems unlikely in a canon movie, but that would have been an interesting route to go down. Too interesting for this movie. So this is where Chuck finds the gold dagger, which is
very, very good prop. That is this gold dagger. This very high quality prop.
It really looks like solid gold, doesn't it? Not just a plastic knife painted gold.
I mean, all the gold in this movie looks very realistic.
Very.
Yeah.
Like when they find the hoard at the end, it's laughably bad.
I mean, that's the thing where it's just like those are the corners that get cut by canon. I feel like where it's like put the money into the car chase. How about these gold props? We could skimp on that. They know where once again, they know what their audience wants. Deliver the goods over there. They're not going to complain that this knife looks terrible. But of course, once again, almost as soon as they find this knife, they are attacked.
Yes.
By as you mentioned, Alex, an Aztec warrior. Where this is unclear.
There's also once they pick up the knife, there's some interesting things going on, right? Like, doesn't the skull the knife is hidden in, like the eyes glow?
That's how when he picks up the skull, the eyes are glowing, and that's how he knows the knife is inside.
Well, he drops it because he's scared by the glowing eyes, but then the glowing was just the hilt of the dagger.
Because it's an all gold dagger that's got stuff carved into the handle, and then like a red ruby or jewel of some kind on the top of it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think the eyes were glowing because light was reflecting off of the, which is also weird though, because what light from where in this cave?
I wasn't sure if they were trying to allude to some sort of like mystical.
I thought that at first too, and like that makes more sense than once again what it actually is, because I don't know where any of this light is coming from.
Oh, I assumed the ruby in the dagger was magically glowing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
That's what I assumed.
So not the skull was glowing, but the dagger. But it never glows again.
I thought it does.
Does it later?
I think so.
I could be misremembering.
The magic
well,
in this
they're
movie
so
is
vague about the dagger, but the dagger is used
everything.
in the ritual.
And they don't want to. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
commit fully to the supernatural once again, like Indiana Jones. So it's all like this. I wish the movie had just gone either picked a lane, either be straight treasure hunt or gone more into the mystical. Because even the Firewalker thing, I guess the guy has to have some powers because he gets shot like in the heart and survives at one point.
Straight in the sternum.
Yeah, that was a kill shot, right? Like, there's no way to survive.
And a terrible, terrible prosthetic gun wound.
Oh, so bad.
It looked like he had a butthole in his chest.
It was just a silly, funny butthole right in the center.
Well, I will say, one of the interesting things about this movie, and rare for canon, this is a PG film. And I think that wound may have something to do with that, because they couldn't make it gory. So they tried to just make it like a hole in his chest. But then it did read as a chest butthole, which is... which is a terrible thing to live with, obviously. But
he's got his own issues with it.
I live a difficult life. Please don't judge me. So they let's see the
So these Aztec warriors show up in regalia, ancient Aztec regalia. So we're led to believe there is an ancient Aztec society still functional.
Where is this cave? We were in Arizona at the bar. I don't know where this cave is in relation to that.
I'm assuming in Mexico somewhere.
It's got to be in
south near the border is all we got.
Somewhere. That's about as much as this movie wants to do. We don't get that Indiana Jones map where we're actually being clear about going from place to place. Here it's like, I don't know, it's like over there somewhere. It's still better than...
The more vague you are, the less work you have to do.
It's still better than Devil's Revenge, the previous movie we did, where the treasure was just down the street, basically.
Yep. Yeah.
It was an hour drive to the cave that had the treasure or whatever.
Yes. In Alabama or something. Or,
Kentucky, I want to say. It was somewhere in the south.
Oh, it was Kentucky, yeah.
But then where they shot for tax reasons, and also where William Shatner had his farm where they shot. So, I'll be in your movie, but I am not leaving my house. She gets grabbed, by somebody. They're shooting, the Aztec people are shooting arrows at them. Yeah, Chuck does throw a knife into one guy, but then he's terrible with a gun, which is interesting. And then it leads
he's fine with knives. Knives are his thing.
Because there is a thing when he shoots at the guy... and he keeps missing, and the guy is like right in front of him. It's very silly how bad he is with the gun.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely supposed to be a punchline.
Yeah, because then when he hands it to Lou Gossett Jr., he shoots the guy very quickly.
Yeah.
But then we get this scene where he confronts the guy out on the cliff, and he's like, "Let the girl go," and then the guy just leaps off the cliff.
Well, the knife glows when he's holding the knife.
That's where it is. He sees that he has the knife, and the guy's like, "Ah," and Chuck's like, "Well, geez, I didn't tell him to do that." Like I just
did laugh pretty hard at that moment. If I'm going to be honest, it was
silly.
Pretty
funny when that guy just turns and jumps out of
and he shouted "Midsummer" as he did it.
Did think that was weird. Very weird choice.
Yeah.
I thought I heard Fargo, and then he went into a wood chipper, but Fargo...
yeah, there's a big wood chipper at the bottom of the cliff.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't even see that wood chipper down there.
Oh, it's a Staples parking lot. That's strange.
That is weird. But I do like Chuck immediately going like, well, it's not my fault that guy jumped. He did that of his own accord. Don't blame me for the suicide, Lou. I know where you're going with this. So he jumps off cliff. Let's see. So somehow, how do they know to... This is where I couldn't figure out. They somehow end up going to this old Apache guy. And how did they get this lead?
One of them knew the guy, right?
Yeah, and I will say this...
Somebody tells him about Tall Eagle. What was...
Yeah.
How did they find out about him? Oh, it was the... They had a guide before. They had a Hispanic guy as a guide.
Right.
Yes, a nameless guide. Yes.
And is he the one who tells them, well, I'll tell you the guy who could... figure this out. It's Tall Eagle.
Yeah.
And this is sad because this is Will Sampson, who was an extremely good actor in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Outlaw Josie Wales and a bunch of stuff. Really well thought of Native American actor. And I mean, he's doing a fine job, but boy, this part, man, is just, I am mystical Native American man.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of
I Love Lucy.
That actually, that was the best. That was the best part of his whole sequence. Because I do like him going, well, geez, I would just leave her if she kept acting like this.
Right, exactly.
Which is such a that's a legitimately funny reaction to I Love Lucy. Is Desi should just pack up and leave.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
But oh fuck, what was I saying?
You said it reminds you who this character reminds you of?
Oh yeah. So the Native American character in Parks and Rec. I'm trying to remember that.
Oh
that
my
name.
God, yeah, I love that guy.
So the idea, like, this character feels like what that character in Parks and Rec puts on to make people feel uncomfortable.
One of my all-time favorite Parks and Rec lines is that guy going, "If there's two things I know about white people, one, they love Rachel Ray. And two, they are terrified of curses."
Exactly.
That
guy
was
of what,
so goddamn funny on that.
And
the amount of time that they would. There's one also where somebody says something and he goes, "Well, I don't think this is offensive," and he just appears in the room going, "Do you, white man?" That guy really knows how to freak out white people.
But yeah, this scene. So, do you guys know why wind started blowing at his hair and a red light started glowing?
This is 80s nonsense with just like all Native American people are magic.
Okay. That's what I was assuming.
It's this movie is pretty offensive. Let's be honest. I mean, really, it doesn't age well at all because it is just going. Other cultures are weird. Is basically the whole thesis of this movie. Man, people have.
I mean, that's kind of the origin
beliefs.
Of these types of stories, right?
I mean, there's no question. There's a colonialism to the whole adventure story, right? I mean, because you go back far enough and you have people going exploring the dark continent and stuff like that, you know? I mean, you go back and, Jesus Christ, you go back and read old Tarzan novels and stuff and you're like, good Lord! No, there is definitely that aspect of it. And there are ways to do it, like we're talking about. There are ones that can do it. I think a lot of it is the respect you pay towards it. I mean, Indiana Jones, people have raised issues with it, but I think at least attempts to do it. This is just like magic Native American. Because he's the one that tells them about the Firewalker. Oh my God, and he gives them the bag of magic powder that will save them at the end.
I don't remember the bag of magic powder.
Yeah.
He gives it to the girl, and then she uses it at the end of the movie to kill El Coyote, or to help kill... and then she's like...
Oh, because that was the only way to kill El Coyote?
Yeah, it weakened the powers of the Firewalker, although what I don't understand is, didn't he not get the powers of the Firewalker by not sacrificing her? Anyway, but she holds, at the end of the movie, she holds up the little bag and goes, "Thanks, Tall Eagle."
Right.
So she does that we're jumping to the very end of the movie, but she does that after the other two have left. So I assumed she and Tall Eagle were in on something separate. If that makes any sense, like they had an understanding.
No,
I don't know why.
It's just that he gave, because Chuck shoots the guy and he doesn't die, but then she stabs him and he does. But it's because she had the magic powder that weakened him.
But she pours it on him after he got stabbed and put on the.
Yeah, because he'll stay dead. Because remember, then he explodes after that happens.
Right. Yes.
Because he died before. I don't think it's that he's invulnerable. He did fall down dead from being shot, but then he came back. So I think the idea is he would have gotten back up. Is then the magic powder, I guess, destroys him, or finishes the killing blow or something. So I don't know. Once again, the mysticism in this movie is so shoddy and ill-defined.
You know what this reminds me of? The Quick and the Dead, the character who keeps getting back up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It does
have a little bit of that, too. Because I think that character's Native American as well.
Yeah, but obviously that's meant to be funny. This is just like, I don't know.
I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Like I said, this is what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to do magic in one of these movies, you kind of got to go all in or leave it out. You kind of can't... once again, if Raiders had been kind of ill-defined about what the Ark did, that would be a much worse movie. But it's like, oh no, it's melting Nazi faces, Great.
I also want to mention, because we kind of skipped over my favorite line in the movie. Which is a Chuck Norris line.
Which one was that?
So when they're driving up to this cave,
yeah,
it's story time, and he's telling.
Oh right, I did have that written down.
They're riding horses.
They're riding donkeys, actually, specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's talking about being in the Himalayas, and he's like, "But there are no bears in the Himalayas, so it must have been Bigfoot," as if Bigfoot is real in this world. Which is very funny.
And actually, if that is the case, why didn't we get that movie? We want to see Chuck Norris versus Bigfoot. We've already seen Chuck Norris
I would love to see that.
Look, we've already seen Chuck Norris defeat Satan on this show. So, in another canon film, which was, oh man, I mean, this may be good, but I don't think this gets anywhere near the glory that is Hellbound.
I think I had a lot of fun with this too. So they're in the same sort of vein.
I think that's true. If you enjoyed Hellbound, you'll probably enjoy this movie. But yeah,
This movie is certainly a lot more offensive than Hellbound, but
which wasn't free of offense. But yeah, definitely. Well, that was where it's like we're going to save money by shooting in our hometown of Tel Aviv or whatever. As long as we stay, and actually having learned more about them, I will say at a certain point there were tax troubles that made them want to stay in Israel. That I think was the case during the shooting of that movie. Was kind of like, if we go back to the U.S., they'll arrest us, sort of thing. Then we'll never have to testify if we just film movies here. I have gives them protective dust is what I wrote down here.
Okay.
And this is also where it's in this meeting that they pinpoint they need to go to San Miguel on a map. Not entirely sure how they get there, but that's where they'll find the treasure. But in the meantime, Chuck Norris meets this, and I'm sorry, she must have a name, but the only term I have for her is native girl, which is awful. But this woman who he meets, and is so clearly manipulating him and giving him drinks. Oh God, it's even worse. She's credited as she's credited as Indian girl in the actual cast.
Oh boy!
So, yikes!
Oh boy!
Yep. Yeah.
But he does say, "I never turned down a good potion," which did make me laugh out loud because it's so stupid.
It's so stupid because number one, terrible
so
policy.
Stupid.
Right?
Because of course she fucking drugs him.
What?
Takes a sip of it and says, heady stuff. And then just like passes the fuck out.
Well, there is this running thing throughout the movie that even like in the middle of fights, he'll swig a beer. And we're supposed to just be like, oh, what a rascal.
What a rascal.
Which once again, you talk about just borrowing things. That is just like borrowing, Marion drinking from the wine crates that have been shot in Raiders. It's all just doing bits that are in other stuff. It's all like, well, that worked over there. I mean, we know Indiana Jones is this iconic franchise, but I think we got to keep in mind that much like the way we talk about like John Wick influences everything now, that's what Indiana Jones was in the 80s. Everybody was trying to make that movie again. There are tons of these. In fact, I've actually thought about we could do a whole month of just Indiana Jones knockoffs probably on here, listen. Because there are so many of these high adventure films that came out in the 1980s. Because some worked, like Romancing the Stone goes, oh, we'll take Indiana Jones, we'll make it a romantic comedy. Well, that really worked. But also, that was because they put a different spin on it. It was also directed by Robert Zemeckis, which helped a lot. But it's just interesting to see this is firmly in that. I do really want to do High Road to China, which is Tom Selleck's one of these, because Tom Selleck was going to be Indiana Jones and then couldn't because he was straight up cast as Indiana Jones, and then NBC picked up Magnum PI and he had to do that. Which of course was hugely successful for him, but still. But High Road to China is totally him going like, okay, I didn't get Indiana Jones, so I'm going to make my Indiana Jones type movie. And it's okay. But it's much cheaper but it's clearly him going, let me make up for this by making my own Indiana Jones. And I do want to do that movie on here at some point. We're going to do some Selleck. We're going to do a Selleck movie coming up pretty soon, actually. Yeah, because we love the guy. Some of his movie choices, though. Anyway, Quigley Down Under is awesome, though. Highly recommend Quigley Down Under. So Chuck is passed out, and she steals the knife, and she's gonna kill him with it. And then this is the weirdest scene in the movie: is her about to stab him, cross-cutting between Melody Anderson, this woman with the knife, and then Tall Eagle chanting. And
wasn't El Coyote was also chanting
that's
too,
it.
right?
El Coyote is also
with the snake over the fire. Very just great. Just great.
But also, it's
I was confused here. I was like, who's doing what? I don't know.
I don't even know what that's the thing where I'm going, I don't even know what I'm meant to think of.
Native American wizard duel.
Which, by the way, once again, on board if that was the whole movie.
Yeah.
That would be a great movie. Yeah. Just a battle of Native American mystics using crazy magic against each other. I'm here for that. But it comes to it just comes to nothing, basically.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is Melody Anderson will come in to save Chuck Norris from being stabbed while he's unconscious. But then of course she can't fully defeat this woman in a fight, so Lou Gossett Jr.
She is a woman.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Lou Gossett Jr. has to save her then.
Yes.
And so that happens. And then the movie's just like, all right, now we're on a plane to San Miguel.
Well, before that, though, do they reveal that this woman was actually a python? Because later, she's missing from...
I think that's a read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a python in there.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if she was the Python.
I
That
think
Python
that's
was
what they're.
her,
Yeah.
but I don't know if she started off as a Python or turned into a Python to evade capture.
I don't know. Does she come back?
Does it matter?
She does.
She doesn't.
He does not come back in the movie, so it doesn't matter.
So that makes it even weirder. That's kind of the whole thing with this movie, where it's like the movie. I mean, Roger Ebert's right about it just being and what reels are showed in. It almost doesn't matter what order you watch these scenes in, and how they're connected to each other is kind of up to you. It's sort of a choose your own adventure movie.
Yeah.
You can kind of do whatever you want. It's like,
yeah,
if you want that lady to have been a python that turned into a lady, or a lady that turned into a python, either one could work.
See, if they had like she shed the human skin and a snake came out or something, that would have been disgusting.
That would have been cool, but I'd also
that is what I would have done.
That would have cost some money for Canon, and they don't want to spend.
Yeah,
that.
That's true.
So instead, they're just gonna. I think that is sort of the thing. It's like we're gonna do vague mysticism because we don't want to pay for special effects. So
or if they just left like her clothes in a pile on the floor, and then the snake was up.
Now there's a cheap way to do it that they could have done. Yeah, because it is kind of like you see the python, then you go like, "Oh, wait, did she turn into that snake?" Okay.
All right,
movie.
Okay.
Once again, it's all just like vague mysticism in the movie. It's kind of whatever.
Yeah,
because then we get this whole
and they change scenes before there's time to really think about it, you know.
And so then we're on the plane to San Miguel, and Chuck is passed out still on the plane, and the whole bit will be here that one of the engines goes out, and they have this real sort of emergency landing, and then Chuck will wake up and go, "Hey, great flight, huh?" Now I'm sure that just made you bust a gut, Lessman.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I was confused as to why the man had a parachute. If it was landing, one of the
joke seems,
people who worked on the plane.
The joke seems to
had a parachute.
The whole joke is, "Hey, don't worry, man," and then he's got a parachute. But then, they almost immediately land.
Right.
So I don't understand.
Why did he have it on? Unless he jumped out and they didn't show it because they couldn't afford to.
I didn't follow this either. I also don't know why any of this even mattered.
It doesn't. It's so unnecessary.
It's just, the whole thing is just to do this bit that, Chuck didn't know the plane almost crashed, kind of. I mean, this is, they're literally doing A-Team bits here with him unconscious on a plane.
Yes.
Let's just keep.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Let's just keep borrowing from better stuff, is the canon attitude, I think. So they land in San Miguel. I didn't understand. So they go out to this bar where they have to punch out the two guys in front of the place. What was that? They were
like the bouncers of the bar, I guess, and they weren't letting him in because a bunch of white people coming in. I guess.
I will say this: basically from here on out, they are the ugliest Americans, just barreling their way through Mexico. And it is like, hey, you can't come in here. So they just openly assault these guys and go, "We're coming in."
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then they just start like flashing around American money, like, "We will give you money." It's like, oh boy.
And Chuck doesn't speak Spanish, which is a whole thing where guys are insulting him. He's going, "What'd he say to me?"
Mm-hmm. Oh god.
And this is where we meet.
Oh right, that's this scene.
Because this is where the person who takes their money is the one other white guy here, which is Ian Abercrombie, who plays.
Well, we can't give a brown person lines, John. Like, that's not allowed.
And I like.
It's 1986.
At least not in English.
Ian Abercrombie is a great character actor. He played Mr. Pitt on Seinfeld. Our Star Wars fans will know he was the voice of Palpatine on the Clone Wars. He's in Army of Darkness. He's in the Addams Family movies. In a million things. Legendary character actor. Completely underused in this movie.
Well, yeah.
He has nothing to do, but he's just this drunken British guy in Mexico going, I have $100 worth of info. Yes. And what is it he tells
Again,
them?
it doesn't want you to think about who he is, what he's doing here, why he has the very specific information they need.
This is also the scene in the bar where she tells Chuck about her visions, and it's supposed to be flirty at the same time too. Because Lou Gossett Jr. goes to get beers or something, and they're at the table,
apparently,
and she's like, "Yeah, I have these visions, and I need this treasure to be real, so I'm not crazy." And Chuck's like, "Yeah, that's great."
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Chuck's giving you nothing. But
nope.
But yeah, it's at the bar here where he tells them the jungle they need to go through is very deadly and lots of people die. But I know a place where you can get a guide who can get you through there. That's the info they get from Ian Abercrombie. And then, but then it's just like this is the canon attitude we're talking about. It's like there's your kernel of story before Chuck turns around and a fight is about to start. Because we get
like a fight between Chuck and half the bar.
Well, because initially it starts with Lou Gossett Jr. tries to fight the guy, right? And he just gets thrown about and thrown behind the bar. And then it's roundhouse kick after roundhouse kick. I will say, this, on paper, doesn't seem like a movie with a lot of martial arts. They let Chuck do his thing, though.
They sure do, yeah.
And this movie
is he just assaulting a bunch of Mexican natives? Yeah, I suppose.
Because this movie also loves a slow motion kick.
Sure does. Oh yeah.
If Chuck can do a sweeping kick at the camera in slow motion, they're like money well spent.
And I will say some of the fight choreography is pretty, I mean, it is Chuck, so obviously, but it's pretty good.
We're talking about
pretty well put together.
World karate champion Chuck Norris. Yeah, I mean, he looks good. Those are the parts of the movie where I'm like, if anything, more kicking still could have been used. Because it's about here. This is like 45 minutes of the movie. I looked at this when Chuck starts kicking people, and I go, here's what people paid for. People want Chuck to kick folks. They love it.
I mean, of course.
So yeah, he beats up everyone in this bar, basically. Oh, he gets really upset because they grab the blonde woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chuck, the whole thing in this is Chuck is kind of refusing to fight until he lets him rough up Lou actually for a little bit, but it's as soon as somebody puts their hands on Melody Anderson that he's like, that's it. It's roundhouse time.
Well, he's getting Lou Gossett Jr. is getting choked out, and then he does do something about it. But yeah, he doesn't really go full Chuck roundhouse mode until Melody gets grabbed, I guess. I don't know.
And so he beats up everybody here, and then we immediately see Ian Abercrombie sell out Chuck and everybody to El Coyote, who then, of course, just murders him rather than pay him.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
And I will say, he's reading a copy of Marvel Comics Psy-Force, which is a very...
which I thought was funny.
A very bizarre comic, like a very obscure... I mean, not super obscure, but it would have been at this time. And this was also at a time when Canon was looking to do business with Marvel. Because I don't know if we've talked about it in here, but Canon got very close to making a Spider-Man movie.
If only.
Very close.
If only.
Had Masters of the Universe not cost them a ton of money.
Been a huge bomb.
The plan was to go right from... In fact, they were going to use some of the same sets from Masters of the Universe for their Spider-Man. Canon reuse sets all the time. Because that movie...
Wow.
Yeah, that movie... Well, because their Masters of the Universe movie takes place primarily on Earth, of course, to save money. But they built high school sets for the teenage characters that were then going to be Peter Parker's high school. They were so close to making Spider-Man. That would have been crazy. Instead, they went bankrupt. But that they I mean, in some ways they were ahead of the curve. They saw the potential in comic book movies. Now, I don't think they would have made very good ones. Oh, we will eventually watch. We're gonna do a Marvel month at some point on the show, and we will watch the canon Captain America movie, which is god awful. It is.
Oh boy.
It is. Yeah. It is.
Oh no.
Terrible.
I could only imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, Captain America with no money, basically. So they're okay. So now that people are looking for them, it's time for. They thought this was fucking hilarious. Them in priest and nun outfits, right?
Oh boy! I was like, why are they in costumes? I don't understand.
They were just like, it's Chuck, and he's dressed as a priest. I don't know.
It's so they can have some weird flirtation on the train.
Well, you bring me to. I did write down 4 things I actually considered one-liners. All of them are pretty weak, but the first one comes from Melody Anderson here. And she says, if you're trying to make a pass, we're not dressed for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because priest and nun outfit.
Yeah.
It almost, but the flirting almost seems like Chuck goes, well, until I saw you in that nun's habit, I wasn't interested, but now.
But now.
Yeah, something.
Hey, it's a kink,
But then you better.
People who are into that.
Sure, but you better believe that, of course, there has to be a scene where they want them to give last rites to a guy, right?
Oh my God, John, this scene is crazy.
Crazy.
This scene is, and this was clearly meant to be like the big comedy scene.
Oh my God,
'cause it is supposed to be like, because they're like, quick, fathers, you have to come. This man is dying, and we want you to give him last rites and say a prayer or whatever. And then it's just Chuck and Lou going, well, I don't know what to do. Do you know what to do? What should you do? I don't know.
Just say shit.
Yeah. And I mean, they
don't know Latin.
It is once again like these fucking crazy people in their religion. I don't know. Just say some gobbledygook, man, and make them happy.
Yeah.
It is. I was watching this going, I can't believe this is in this movie.
It was, yeah. I was shocked that the scene was here.
Yeah.
Well, so what? The guy got shot because he didn't have his papers?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, because soldiers board the train, because I guess wherever we are is under some kind of dictatorship or something, I take it. Some sort of totalitarian rule, because their soldiers board the train, and they're asking for papers, and they shoot a guy who doesn't have them.
Mm-hmm.
And the bit, we think they're in trouble because, they want to talk to them now, and they don't have papers. But really, it's we shot this guy, and now this scene is so weird.
Yes.
And then, it's...
Then it's revealed that the guy did have papers, and that the wound was like a glancing blow.
Yeah.
I guess.
For some reason. Not only was he both fine legally, he was fine medically, and it was a miracle. Hooray!
Yeah. And then they just get off the train and they're back on their mission.
Yeah.
Well, but they get
cut
to
it from the movie, please.
Yeah. This scene. Yes. You talk about
another scene that could be cut.
Where I'm saying you could get 15 minutes out of this thing. This scene is for sure something you could lose. Good Lord.
It adds nothing.
And it is painfully unfunny.
It's nothing to the plot. It adds nothing to the characterization.
Yeah.
It is just a dumb skit in the middle of this movie that serves no purpose.
Because then they roll up on this town that's already been destroyed, and now the soldiers are after them, so we got to go chase into the... I mean, they're not in a jungle. They're in like a field, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And Chuck's doing more kicking. And then we get a scene where we have this one drunken soldier. You can tell he's a drunken soldier because he's holding a bottle of something and a gun. And he's just kind of milling about going...
It says hooch on the bottle, and there's two X's.
It might as well be a jug with 2 X's on it, exactly.
Yeah.
It might as well be. And he is just like... And she goes, wait, I'm not really a nun, see? And she takes off her habit, and she's like, see, I'm fine. He's like, what? And then he drops his gun, and she picks it up and points it at him, and once again...
Well, because he drops his pants. I don't fully understand this, like, the progression of events in this scene. It's very strange.
It is very strange.
Why he drops his gun, I'm not sure. She picks it up and makes him run away with his pants down.
I guess once again,
hilarious.
I guess this is funny.
Yeah, apparently.
But then they do get captured by soldiers that immediately take Melody Anderson. And I'm going, oh my God, Cannon, please don't.
Do not,
do not sexually assault this woman. Cannon loves a rape scene. Now, this is a PG movie. I didn't expect it, but I'm like, are we going to imply it? Or they're going to save her from almost being raped? But it does lead to our second one-liner, which is a reverse one-liner, because it's Chuck turning to Lou and saying, all right, now let's keep our heads. Cut to them about to be decapitated.
Yes.
Now that's a reverse of our normal something happens and there's a comment on it. This is a setup one-liner. Pretty rare. And so, these guys are going to behead them.
And they chop some melons first just to demonstrate the effectiveness of this very dull prop sword that they're holding.
That's probably just talking about being... I'm sure a lot of this movie is reused from King Solomon's Mines. We made another adventure movie. Just ship that stuff to Mexico now.
Definitely.
I mean, like I said, Cannon loved to reuse a set, loved to reuse props, costumes constantly.
If I had free time, which I don't, unfortunately, but if I did, one thing I would love to do is track the progression of certain props from one Cannon film to the next.
There's no doubt in my mind you could.
Yeah.
Especially things like weapons.
That actually is, if that existed already, I would be incredibly interested in looking at that.
I bet somebody has to have, right? But then, oh no, this is all a bit because it's Chuck's old pal. And if you made an adventure movie in the 80s, you had to put John Rhys-Davies in it. You had to. He's, of course, in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was also just in King Solomon's Mines for them as well. He just is adventure movie side character. And I will say, one of the problems of this movie, not enough of him, because when he comes in, you're like, oh, thank God.
He should have been the villain of this movie,
He should have, yeah.
Because he's
great, as he's
fully
great in...
psychotic.
And he's,
double-cross villain or something. Yeah.
But his character's name is Corky, which is super weird.
Yeah, right? Corky Taylor is his name.
And he's doing a southern accent?
Maggie kept saying, oh, he's playing Quirky Taylor. I'm like, he's playing a side character who's just labeled Quirky Taylor? And she's like, no, you don't understand. Corky, that's his name. I'm like, what is that? What is that name?
Not a name.
What is the origin of this name? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand either. And he's a guy who he has and this really served him well for a long time. I think he's a white guy, but he always kind of read as foreign. So he played a lot of foreign guys. Here he's playing a southern guy who has basically become a warlord in Mexico.
Yes. He fully admits to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's like, well, and once again, it's just him going like, hey man, these guys will do anything for you. Like basically, if you take care of them right or whatever, as long as you, isn't it basically like as long as you have the right attitude and stuff like that?
I guess.
They'll follow me wherever. So then they're having this big like banquet dinner in his camp. And this was about the time I kind of checked out of the movie for a little, even though I love John Rhys-Davies, but I'm going like, I think we're off the path of the treasure hunt at this point.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why he should have been the main villain. Otherwise, why is he in this movie?
Right. Like, he should want the treasure.
Yes.
No.
Because somewhere in the movie you need to meet someone else from Chuck's past.
I don't. Or he needs to aid them more. He either needs to betray them or aid them in a bigger way. I mean,
so what you're saying is he needs to have some sort of impact on the progression of the plot.
Yeah, because he's basically just here for these couple scenes, and then he's going to give them one of my favorite vehicles, which is a camouflage VW Bug,
which somehow can drive through the jungle. I don't know how that is possible, but
until it can't.
Well, until they sink it in a swamp,
a river, a stream. I don't know.
Then this is the weirdest part. I think I've 3 times now said this is the weirdest part of the movie, but this part is not good. We have Chuck and Melody Anderson getting cozy by the fire, supposedly having sexual tension, alleged tension.
Theoretically.
In theory. And Lou Gossett Jr. wanders off and then disappears, and it's briefly implied he might have been eaten by a crocodile.
I was so ready to riot at this point. I'm like, any enjoyment I've had in this film will be thrown in the garbage if Lou Gossett Jr. dies off camera from a like it wouldn't make any sense that it would.
No, I didn't think. Yeah.
But this movie's bad enough to where they might make that baffling decision. You know what I mean?
So the crocodile had come up before.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because she had wanted to go swimming, and they threw a rock, and they're like, no, this is why, and here comes this crocodile.
And we see him walk off over, like, near the riverbank where the croc might be.
Yeah.
And then they hear some rustling, and they're like, oh, no. And then like, oh, my God, the crocodile. God. What? And then it's like, well, we'll have to trudge on without him then.
No, Chuck wanted to absolutely give up.
He does want to give up. It is her that convinces him. Chuck is like, well, my best friend's been eaten by a crocodile. I'd say that does it for this mission. And she's basically like, I'm going on with or without you. And if he was here, wouldn't he want you to have done this so that he didn't die for nothing kind of thing?
I guess, yeah.
I guess. I don't know. So they do trudge on. And yes,
This is the biggest. This part of the movie is maybe the worst part of the movie because they lose any amount of like on-screen charisma by taking Lou Gossett Jr. out of this part of the film.
Yep, agreed. Instead, they end up sinking their car into the swamp and having to swim across. Mm-hmm. And is it implied Chuck doesn't know how to swim?
Yes. It is implied that he does not know how to swim.
I did think, though, it's like, good Lord, this swamp is that deep that the whole car went. Maybe, but how deep could this thing be? It's not very big.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Anyway, so we get some, I guess, physical comedy from Chuck trying to doggy paddle out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Eesh. Anyway, though, they just happen to find the temple that they need to get.
They just randomly stumble across it.
There it is. This is the only obstacle to the temple was this swamp.
This small pond.
Yeah. That's what you get from Canon. It's what we can afford. That should be the Canon. You'll get what we can afford. Should have been their slogan.
It's like Conan's fake slogan for Olive Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Olive Garden, pretty good for the money.
Yeah. Just like a mama used to make. He would get so mad at those commercials. Oh, it's like I'm back in the homeland.
I don't know about that.
I think so. They find the temple, and oh my God, when they enter the temple, this statue comes at them, and Chuck just starts shooting it. I laughed really hard at this.
Yes, this is very funny.
It's clearly on some kind of mechanism, and it's just rolling at them, and he's like, ah!
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but don't think about what mechanism that might be, because...
Oh, no. Yeah.
That's not important.
That doesn't matter, because it slides back in place, trapping them in there.
It does.
What? I don't know.
Because
I don't know what pushes it back.
When the statue moves, it opens up a door into a room where Lou Gossett Jr. is hanging by his wrists over water of some kind.
This was unclear because Maggie and I were confused as to why he didn't want to go in the water. It looked like a hot tub or a hot spring was under him.
And then later when there's a scene where they're crossing like rocks and they don't want to fall in the water, and it seems, again, it's not that the water's deep. It seems to imply that the water is hot.
Yes, I think that's what they were going for, but it didn't really.
It does. I mean, it vaguely reads as that visually, but you're like, that's weird. Why?
Yeah.
And nobody says it either. There's once again, there's no Bond villain going like, if you were to fall into this magma or whatever, there's nothing like that. It's just like, oh, don't fall. Because yes, El Coyote is here. And this is like an old temple, right? But he's using all these traps. So he knows how the temple functions. He didn't build this place.
Well, I suppose not.
Did he install the traps?
How would he? Is he part of this ancient society that lives in these temples? Maybe.
I mean, he knows about the Firewalker, so he must.
He knows,
be familiar with the temple.
It's just the way he like traps them in this room, and then he's running around and seems to know how everything in here works. It's just weird to me that this is like, aha, I know everything about the mechanisms of this place.
I just don't understand why this character was in the movie.
El Coyote,
yeah.
It did feel like they're just like, we just need a bad guy,
Make John Rhys Davies the villain then. He's also going for the treasure.
Well, yeah. Once again, going back, if you are just going to rip off Indiana Jones, give him a Belloc, right? Like a guy who's also a treasure hunter and is trying to kill them. Or keep the Chinese guy from the start of the movie. Make him your main villain instead of this weird. Boy.
Yeah.
So he. This is some not exciting action. What's about to happen? Because he grabs.
Them climbing.
The El Coyote grabs Melody Anderson. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna sacrifice her because we kind of late in the game find out you have to sacrifice someone to get the powers of the Firewalker." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take her and sacrifice her in the other room, and I'll leave you two trapped in this room." And Chuck's plan is, I'm gonna also jump onto the rope that Lou Gossett Jr. is attached to, and then they're gonna together swing across to a ledge.
So what was stopping Lou Gossett Jr. from swinging? Why did Chuck have to be on there?
I don't know. I guess the idea is with the weight of the two of them, they have more momentum or something.
I guess.
I mean, he should still be able to get a swing going. I think it was more before, if he tried to escape, El Coyote would just like cut the rope and send him to his doom.
I guess maybe that's the thing.
Was it?
And I guess
implied that the room was going to fill with hot water.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah.
They said it seems like his plan is to drown us.
Yes. Okay, that was little unclear.
Wait a minute. Is the threat that the water's hot, or is it just that there's lots of water so they'll drown? Unclear. Or both. They'll be burned as they're drowning, I guess.
Who can say?
Whatever.
How to put more stakes on stakes.
I thought this went on way too long, though. There's so much of these two swinging.
Yeah, and then they get to a ledge and then do some Uncharted climbing.
Oh, that's an insult to Uncharted, Lisman. But yes, it is. Conceivably, they are shuffling along a rock wall.
A very clearly designed handholds that they can, very much a rock wall you would see at a climbing gym.
Yeah, and none of it is very fast or exciting, or there's not much threat to it. It's all just kind of very matter of fact. So they find El Coyote, who's of course about to. What is this?
Do something. Is he gonna stab?
Sorry, I missed the moment earlier. It was before he trapped them in the temple, when Chuck pulls out the ceremonial dagger and hits us because he goes, "Soon I will have the spirit of the Firewalker." And I gotta say, one of the worst one-liners in any movie. He says, "I'll have the spirit of the Firewalker," and Chuck reels back with a knife and says, "Spirit this." That doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't. I don't remember him saying that, which is,
he does.
I think, a testament to how nothing it is.
He says, "Spirit this," and he throws the knife, and El Coyote just catches it.
I love that so much.
Because he's gonna use that knife to stab Melody Anderson.
Right.
That's
right.
what it is.
Okay.
That's where it is.
Oh
so
God.
And I did think for a second, because he's about to stab her, and Chuck just runs in and shoots him in the chest, and I thought, oh my God, is that the end of this villain? I was kind of hoping it was just because, and then of course the joke being Chuck goes, I can't believe I hit him.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
But I did for half a second. I go, oh my God, that would be the best. Is if this absolute nothing villain goes out so unceremoniously. Chuck just shoots him in the chest and it's over. I wish.
That would be something else.
No, instead they put the knife into a slot on the slab that she was lying on, and the slab slides back to reveal a staircase down to, an implied staircase. It really is just a hole in the ground.
Yes, that they walk towards, and then there's a cut, so you don't actually have to see that there's.
And this is where they enter the room of gold. Ooh, shining, shimmering gold.
Yeah.
And they just pack up the gold.
Yeah,
we get some bits where they're putting on crowns.
Some of it.
Yeah. They do some bits where they're like, check out this crown. Doesn't this go on me? Yeah, and they fill up like 4 bags of gold.
Which, if they were actually filled with gold, like gold is heavy.
Gold is heavy. Yeah.
Those bags would be like cripplingly heavy.
Yeah. Yep. I did have that thought. I go, before they filled up the bags even, I'm going, well, what are they going to do with this? They're out in the middle of nowhere. You'd have to bring in a crew or something to get this out of here.
They don't have a vehicle at this point.
That's true. Also, where do they take the gold after this?
This is them getting out of the desert all over again.
And then gold isn't inherently a form of money, so now they got to fence it somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to buy the gold from them. So, and the
maybe
movie's
there's all sorts of
have
services.
a contact. Yeah.
Maybe
they know a guy who buys
just
random gold.
But it's just like, we have gold, now we're rich.
Yeah.
But then of course El Coyote is still alive because we have to have a final fight with him here.
Boo.
Are they the ones that started the whole cash for gold?
There it is.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Totally,
it's an origin story.
Totally not a scam. I mean, they'll give you cash for gold. Is it what the gold is actually worth? Well, they take a pretty decent cut. So he's still alive. They fight him. It's finally, Melody Anderson stabs him in the back with the thing. But of course, we can't have her get the triumphant finishing. Chuck has to do a flying kick into the guy's face. Now he's down.
That kick is more effective than the gunshot or the knife wound.
Well, but then of course she'll sprinkle the magic dust on him and he'll burst into flames.
Yes.
Thanks, Tall Horse.
Tall Eagle.
Tall Eagle, that's
Tall
it.
Horse.
I like Tall Horse better.
I like Tall Horse.
Yeah.
Tall Horse is pretty good.
Oh, and Chuck gives one last one-liner because he does a flying kick into this guy's face and he goes, not so tough. I gotta say, Chuck's one-liners are pretty lame.
Pretty bad. They're pretty lame, and he doesn't deliver them well.
Not so tough.
Quick question.
You almost had to lean in
here.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Is a tall horse just a giraffe?
Ooh, well. Okay. Here's my answer. A giraffe is a tall horse, but not all tall horses are giraffes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Square and rectangle scenario.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Because I think also a tall horse could be, to me, I'm picturing a very long-legged horse, not necessarily one with an extended neck. I'm just thinking regular horse.
Like a Clydesdale.
Yeah, that's what.
Clydesdale is just a tall horse.
That's it exactly. That's a taller.
But it's not a giraffe.
Exactly. It's still a horse that's just taller than the average horse.
Okay, thank you for indulging me. It's a question that I needed answered.
Look, we are here to answer questions on this show too. We're having the tough conversations that need to be had. What constitutes a tall horse? America wants to know.
A wide horse?
I think so.
That's a wide horse.
I think so.
Yeah. Everything is just some form of horse, basically.
It's some form of horse, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Zebras, striped horses, I mean, it's all in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, all these just it is like and like we were saying about Chuck's delivery of the one-liners. You have to lean, like you said. I didn't hear him say that other ones, like, because he does just kind of go, not so tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And he's like, yeah, okay. He doesn't. Oh man, this is where.
How many takes do you think he did of that one?
Probably more than you would think, and it was probably the son going, "That's the best we're gonna get out of it."
I would love to see the dailies of that, of him just saying it exactly the same every time.
Tough. And you're just like, he's not getting any better. And J. Lee Thompson used to work with Bronson, who is one of my favorite one-liner deliver. Because he really makes a meal out of them. I don't even remember what's it's the one I love I think it's in the first Death Wish, maybe it's in the second one, where he says, "You believe in Jesus, punk?" And the guy goes, "Yes, I do, sir." He goes, "You're gonna be seeing him real soon." Pretty great. There's no fun. Yeah. And so then it just cuts to them in this fancy, like, restaurant next to the ocean. And they're all like, "Hey, we did it!"
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get the hilarious thing. They go, "Well, from now on, it's smooth sailing forever. No more trouble for us." And then what's this? We pan to the bar, and there's the Chinese man from the beginning. I guess he's going to try to kill them again.
I just assumed he got a new job, He's trying out a different
Do you think
career.
he's just working the bar at this place? He's like, "Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What are the odds?"
I know those three.
What are the odds?
Yeah. And this was, I have no doubt in my mind, Canon was trying to set up a franchise here, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They thought for sure this would be the first of many.
There's going to be a million of these if everything went right. Yeah.
Yeah, this was going to be another Donegan and Porter adventure.
Always a different woman, though, for some reason.
Oh, yeah. No. She's gone. Are you kidding me? Chuck has to awkwardly flirt with more women in these movies. Have we ever seen Chuck have chemistry with a woman in any of these things? I don't think.
No, I've also seen many, many episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger, and it doesn't work there either.
No, it never. Anytime I do, there are several Walker episodes that are romantic, and I just remember him he can't sell like, "I love you,"
Nope.
"You're so beautiful." Like, you're just like, nope, you're not this guy, man. Steer out. Stop writing that shit for him. He can't do it. That is the thing. We like Chuck, but you kind of got to know how to write for Chuck. We talked about that last week with A Force of One, where they brought in those writers to make it more of a Chuck movie.
Yeah.
And by that they gave... Work. I mean, the movie was terrible, but they did give all the dramatic heavy lifting to every other character in that movie. And they were basically like, just have Chuck kick people. And I actually do think Chuck was fine in that movie. He wasn't the problem. So there it is.
The script was the problem.
That's Firewalker from Canon Films.
Yeah.
Far from the worst, but still I think not as good as some of the other Chuck movies. It's not as good as Lone Wolf McQuade or Hellbound or Invasion USA. I see why this one was not as financially successful. People did not take to this one as much as the other Chuck Norris movies. We should also mention this is the last Chuck Norris movie that his brother Aaron Norris was the stunt coordinator for, because from here on out he'll be directing Chuck's movies.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's interesting that Chuck immediately returns to his Missing in Action franchise after this. Like, oh, that didn't work? Let me get back to the stuff people like.
Where the bread is buttered,
Yeah. And we will cover those. I have promised we'll cover the Missing in Action trilogy at some point on here.
Yes.
Because that is Chuck's Rambo knockoff series. And they're fun. In my memory, they're fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Firewalker. That's Firewalker. We had some issues with this movie, but I want to bring us to a man who I don't think has any issues with this movie. Not the one you're thinking of. We'll get to him. He did see it too. But this is from IMDb. You guys know it's always my mission to find the strangest IMDb reviews. And this one takes it's on the longer side, and it definitely takes the tone we see a lot on these. So here it is. This comes to us from IMDb user Illegal Alien 51.
Okay.
Grab a beer, lay back, and enjoy this confused but very entertaining ride. Here I come, knight in shining armor to rescue you, Firewalker. I don't see why so many people gave it not only a low rating, but also negative reviews. On the other hand, maybe after reading this review, many people might think that I am an utterly hopeless person. But I doubt that I am, if I may say so myself. I virtually love this film. I even bought it on VHS, so there. Yeah.
That'll show him.
Yes, it is most certainly some kind of Indiana Jones story. But hey, how many of you out there who love the Indiana Jones movies do not think there are far too little such movies ever made? The true adventure stories in an undiscovered world. Next thing is that this movie is certainly not trying to be better than Indiana Jones, because it is quite clear it can never be. But what it does is open up its own realm so that it can coexist with whatever you want to compare it to. Anyway, I think Norris's acting is pretty bad and clumsy. He plays a frozen brick unless it's in the fighting scenes. Louis, I think I've never heard anyone call Lou Gossett Jr. Louis. Louis, I think he gives the movie what it deserves. But what I just did is something you really shouldn't do with this movie. Look at each actor at a time, because both actors form a greater whole than what they individually could create. They are a real acting team in some way. Both are somewhat lost in the world. They don't seem to really belong in that adventure business. They should have rather stayed at home and become park rangers of the smallest parks they could find.
What the fuck is happening, John?
But since they didn't, all what they are, do, and represent turns into some kind of comical base for the movie. What is comedy?
Webster's Dictionary defines comedy.
Well, he kind of goes, what is comedy? Mostly that you find something in a place where you wouldn't expect it. That is the case with these two dorks out here in the jungle. They don't even know how to fire a pistol, but they do it anyway. This movie is, in a way, innocent and easygoing. It's not so much about having a mission and being unbeatable and hard as iron on your way to your goal. It is rather about not being sure how, but going there anyway without even really being prepared for it, so to speak. No, for God's sakes, don't take it seriously. Just turn off your sensors and let it fill your brain with all the nonsense. The very nice humorous scenes, the sometimes flat but charming dialogue, the playfulness, and the situations where the heroes are in trouble but where you know they're gonna make it even though they are a bit stupid, but they manage anyway because they hang on and have a bit of luck, which they definitely need. This is a very easygoing, fun, and entertaining movie. Rip-off or not, it has its very own style, pace, and certainly a lot of charm. 10 out of 10 stars.
Oh, wow.
How did that keep going?
I
don't know.
That was
a wild ride, that one.
That could have been summed up with, it's okay if you turn your brain off.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not great, but I think it's
gave
fun.
The exact same amount of information that he did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think, but there is somebody else who saw this movie, and we might want to check in with him, our favorite Amazon.com reviewer. Yes, it's time for another segment of The Winning Opinion. Yes, Bruce Winning saw this movie, and here are his thoughts about it. His review is titled, "Sometimes it's fun to go on an adventure." I like 16:9 video. I like action and violence. I like shooting. I like punching and kicking. Chuck Norris is very good with the martial arts fighting. 5 out of 5 stars.
See, this is the kind of review I'm looking for. Short, succinct, straight to the point.
That last sentence is so... It sounds like your grandfather talking. He's very good with the martial arts fighting. With the martial arts fighting.
Things he does with the punching and the kicking. Very entertaining.
I mean, that's kind of all of his reviews. That's kind of all of his reviews, right? With the shooting and the punching and the kicking.
Did he mention? Sorry, did he mention the driving and the action?
He didn't mention the driving, which is interesting because he does.
I don't think he mentions driving that often in his reviews.
He will. He does occasionally mention chasing. He likes the chasing.
Yeah. I'm assuming maybe it was because it's so early in the movie. His interest in that chase scene that started off the movie, just like it was just over, like he's just over it by then.
Well, there's I don't know if we've read him on the show. We probably have because we've read a lot of his reviews, and I've read all of his reviews because I have to comb through them for the show. He's a big car guy and will occasionally talk about liking specific cars in movies too.
Interesting.
Well, like we said, this was meant to be, or we think this was meant to be the starter for a franchise. So. What say we bust out our handy-dandy action movie title generator and come up with what would have been the sequel to this movie?
Yes.
So we go from Firewalker to, I'm going to hit the title generator here. Ooh, a little bit different adventure for them. I think they're going to get aquatic on this one because this is Chuck Norris, Lou Gossett Jr. in Thief of the Sea.
So they're raiding Atlantis.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I think we know who the villain in this one actually is, right? John Rhys Davies. Yeah.
Corky this time comes back.
Yeah. Corky this time comes back, and he's now an adversary of theirs.
Like they have, it starts out they have to work together,
right?
Okay,
and you'll betray them.
But then at some point he leaves them to die or something. So that he can get a larger cut of whatever it is.
Well, I think maybe they find that the Atlantis was in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, definitely.
Well, yeah, we got it
because that's where Corky's army is. Correct?
Yeah.
So they have to go to him.
They can reuse some of the sets from this too. Then,
for sure.
Some of the locations and sets are those we can recycle. So they end up on a mission to Atlantis. Chuck, of course, falls in love with an Atlantean princess.
Of course, yes.
Because there are Atlantean people there that, of course, they summon, right? It's a full thing. And I think it should end up being they go there to raid the treasure, but they end up choosing to protect Atlantis against John Rhys Davies because they fall for the people there.
A real James Cameron's Avatar, a real
Avatar situation. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Are they blue people?
I think they have to be, right? I mean,
they must be, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's the Marvel
Atlanteans.
Comics view
they
of
live
Atlanteans. That's the Marvel.
Sure.
It's so weird that we're getting a Marvel Atlantis movie and then an Avatar 2 this year, but
it's strange.
It's very bizarre. And also, in terms of my enjoyment, not looking good for Mr. Cameron if Marvel's going to also offer me underwater adventure. But
probably not.
Yeah. So anyway,
now are the Atlanteans worshiping some sort of Lovecraftian tentacular monster?
That could be cool because that could be what ends up eating John Rhys Davies.
I think it should.
Yeah. Because they Chuck and Lou initially fight it, but then it comes to understand that it is that they are protecting of the Atlantean people, so it sides with them and eats John Rhys Davies.
Oh, so it is just the Kraken. They worship the Kraken.
Yeah, they worship the Kraken. Let's just go with that for simplicity's sake. I like that.
Okay. Yeah, this sounds great.
I love it. Yeah. So that's Thief of the Sea, which is Firewalker 2. Well, we're going to change up things next week with a little bit more hard edge Chuck Norris movie. That's right. It's a gritty crime drama next week.
Oh no.
Chuck Norris is the Hitman.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. Starring Chuck at this is at peak mullet. This thing is epic in this movie. It's down his back. This is absolutely crazy. Crazy haired Chuck. And as always, listener, I will ask, would you like to hear the tagline for The Hitman?
Oh, yeah.
It is, he's so far undercover, he may never get back.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at this mullet right now.
Oh, isn't it? Oof. It's something, man. Chuck's got a shotgun and a mullet on the poster. And this, as we mentioned, his brother and former stunt coordinator, now director on this, Aaron Norris. And, of course, it is from the good folks at Canon. And we also get Michael Parks back as our villain, who was the villain in Death Wish 5, The Face of Death.
Oh,
I think we did enjoy, even if that movie was terrible. He was hamming it up, and I'm sure he will be in this one as well. Because I will say that the one piece of trivia I'll reveal here is this was a movie originally developed for Charles Bronson, and then ended up in Chuck Norris. So I think it'll be interesting to see Norris in what was supposed to be a Bronson vehicle, because Bronson did make harder edge stuff than him. So
that's true.
This does seem like a darker Chuck movie. But yeah. Who the hell? I'm just looking at the poster, and there's a poll quote from some magazine that gave it 3.5 stars and said, "Astonishing." Are you? It's Chuck Norris and the Hitman. It's astonishing.
I was astonished by that mullet.
A new level of cinema has been reached.
This
anyway.
Is astonishingly bad.
Yeah, they just took it out. Anyway, 3.5 stars out of 10, unfortunately, was the problem there.
Oof.
No.
Tough break.
So, that'll be next week on the show. Alex, as always, a pleasure to have you on, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, and I know you already signed up for some more stuff down the line that I'm sure will be very interesting. I'm always curious what you were drawn to. Yeah. So anyway, but that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Action Shelf. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Michael Isman.
Until next week, get yourself some action.
The Action Shelf. The Action Shelf. The Action Shelf.